I'm all for experimental films in a way. Like anybody who's willing to give something a shot, I'm willing to kind of sit there and process it along like anybody else who's going to be watching whatever randomness could come out from an experiment, such as I mean, this is the film I'm going to be talking about, which came out this year. But another film that comes to mind is a film from last year with William Dafoe called Inside, which is also sort of experimental in a way. It's a single, well, not a single shot, but it's a single actor film that's really about the art and kind of the atmosphere and the tone that's set by just the one actor, and it's William Dafoe, so you know that he's doing a tremendous job at it. So that to me is like something that's also sort of experimental. Just this idea of hopefully people are going to get the artistic value that this is meant to bring to the table. I have that on my list to do an entry about, but for now, what we're going to talk about is this year's sort of experimental journey, Skinamarink. Now, Skinamarink is a horror film that was part of some festival up in Canada last year, and it just got released over here in the States this past January. Now, it's a very experimental film because it's sort of unconventional from a lot of the things that I was reading before I actually sat down and watched it. Now, the one thing I have to say is a positive for it, and this might shock a few people, is it's a film on such a small budget. Like, I read that this film only cost 15 grand to make. Like, 15 grand is not that big of a deal when you're talking about, like, that's not even the what a like a background actor gets paid, I don't think, or maybe even that's a minor percentage of an actor like Robert Downey Jr. for any of the Marvel movies, or Jennifer Lawrence for any film she's done in the last 5 years. That is such a meager amount, and they made an hour and 45-minute film with that much money. And do you know how much this thing made? In just being distributed for a short period of time with just word of mouth. This literally got no publicity as far as I'm concerned. It's just word of mouth. If you didn't read about it, or somebody that had seen it didn't tell you about it, you probably would have never even heard of it. It made $2 million. That's insane to think about. And I saw not an interview, but a review from another person about it, just because I wanted to see if I can get some explanation because of my own feelings about the film. And from what one person said in a review I was watching, they made a good point. This is kind of unheard of in this day and age. It's kind of unheard of to see a film be made for such pennies and then get valued so highly for how many people really went to go see it. So, like, you think about a film like The Blair Witch Project, which was another film that I think was only a few $1,000s, if that. And that thing was a massive success in the late 90s. We were sort of past that. Like, it's very difficult to even think something like that could be done in this day and age. So when you hear about it, it sort of draws your attention towards it. And with the fact that it's a Shudder original, you know, after the fact of its release and all of the money it made, it went straight to Shudder and was kind of put out there worldwide on Shudder for their viewers. That's how I got to see it. And I mean, I don't want it to kind of, I guess, take away my film buff, my movie guy credentials if I sit here and I say it, but I don't get it. I really feel bad that I don't get it because I really wanted to get it. I really went into this really hopeful to get it, and I understand the premise of what it's going for, but it's not for everybody. And even though it made $2 million, it's very across the board split. Right down the middle. You ask 10 people, 5 are going to like it and 5 are not. It's literally that split. Any review you see of it anywhere, IMDb has it at like 5. Any sort of aggregator like even Shudder only has it at 3. 3 out of 5. I think Rotten Tomatoes has it somewhere around 70 for the main tomato meter or whatever they call it, but the audience has it down in like the 30s or something last time I saw. So it's very split across the board for those who like it and those who don't. And I'm in sort of the pool of those that don't. And I don't mean to say that I don't get it or anything. I feel like it's too experimental. And there was some people that I was watching when I was looking at reviews and kind of Skinamarink explained videos, because I needed something to make sense in a way. I needed something to sort of bring something to light that maybe I would show some more appreciation for it. And all I really gathered was that it's sort of meant to be this gathering of creepypasta lore in some way. Now, I'm not all that into creepypastas. I know a lot of them. I don't know every single one of them, and I don't do a lot of digging or deep diving into a lot of that stuff just personal choice. It's not something that is, I'm very into, like I'm into The Witcher. I'm not into creepypastas. So I don't know a lot of them. So even taking that in consideration, from what I've read for people saying that this is sort of gathering a sort of creepypasta sense to it, it's not fully about just one. And to me, you sort of have to be about just one. You can't just have this essence of every creepypasta that ever existed, because then you jumble up whatever story you're trying to tell. And to me, it's like Slenderman. When you want to do a movie about Slenderman, it's got to be full-fledged, full-force, straightforward, all about Slenderman. You can't just throw in there the Devil's Roulette in a Slenderman movie. You just can't do that. And if you're saying this is this collaboration of all these, that it's all happening to these two kids in this house, it just doesn't make any sense. Now, what I do appreciate is that it is still a good setup for a movie. I like its darkness. I like its simplicity of just the two kids and them kind of dealing with whatever's happening in the house and whatever quote-unquote paranormal creature is kind of going after them. But all in all, it just kind of gets diminished when there's just so many prolonged scans and prolonged shots of just one spot and nothing's happening. I don't need to see 3 different angles of the bear hanging on the wall to know that the bear's hanging on the wall if there's nothing else of value there. If there's nothing else of value, you could have cut literally 30 to 40 minutes of this film out completely that has absolutely bullshit to do with the storyline. It's nothing. It's fodder to make it an hour and 40 minutes. There's no reason for it to be there. And as a person who loves filmography and loves it when filmography is done well, I don't even see the artsy or the cinematography side of it. It's literally just looking at door frames and hearing stuff going on in the background. It doesn't need to be there to emphasize on a scene or anything like that. Now, there are some things that do kind of, get pretty creepy when there's the separation between when, say, the kids are in the living room and it's shining a light in the corridor that leads on the other side of the living room, and it's not really going into the hallway. So there's a sort of darkness there, but it's the film concept is so much like an old 90s recording, like it was recorded on an old VHS cassette, tape recorder, that the distortion kind of makes you question if there's something there or not. And you're really thinking, am I looking at something? Am I not looking at something? Is this just to bring my focus there and my focus is meant to be somewhere else? Maybe, I don't know. That kind of leads a little bit of uneasiness because you're questioning it. And it's sort of that questioning that you're getting that maybe is actually more beneficial than any sort of actual scares, because there's really only 2 big scares in the whole film, and that's when a set of eyes turn into a toy phone, and it's kind of like, okay, and then when you see the first face of anybody in the film, because there's no faces, it's filmed either from maybe 2 inches off the ground and down. It never goes any higher than the kids' knees, because you kind of can see the kids walking around. It'll never go higher than their knees. And then it's pretty much ceiling. It's ceiling in the top of doors. It never goes anywhere further down for pretty much 90% of the film. There's a couple of shots of an outlet and a nightlight and some stairs, but that's about it. It's very weird to think that it's sort of playing this mockumentary style thing with with some POV shots, but then it totally abandons that to just go back full full background and just look over everything and not give us anything in that shot. It's just a very strange way of doing things. And I know there's a lot of people out there that do appreciate it, but I think the appreciation falls more in line with the idea that this was made for only $15,000. It sort of makes the idea of being able to make a film seem in grasp. Like anybody could go out there and make a film. And I think in this day and age, you probably need that. This probably needs to be an inspiration almost to people to see something like this happen, because sometimes the most you'll get is somebody puts a lot of investment in a short film that's maybe 15, 20 minutes long at most, 10 minutes sometimes, 5 minutes at sometimes, and then these short films get picked up and turned into feature films. Now, the feature films aren't always that great. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. An example of that is Mama from like 2011. That was originally a short film. Another one I can think of is Lights Out. That was a really popular, I want to say somewhere in England, maybe Britain, a short film out there. It's about 3 minutes long. They turned that into a 90-minute film, and the 90-minute film isn't all that bad, and that was like maybe 10 years ago as well. So it's possible that that could happen, but all this seems to be is just this guiding light of, if you have the capability and you have sort of the willpower and the fortitude and the determination, if you are able to and you really, really want to, you could make a movie for the price of a car. You know, some cars are even more than that. It's almost cheaper to make a movie in this day and age than it is to own a car when you really look at the numbers of this. And trying to get it out there and hopefully it gets some attention is a big deal. And this probably got a lot of attention because of its experimental nature. This very much sort of, you don't see anything. You literally don't see anything for 95% of the film. And it's sort of uneasy to try to think of what they're trying to do with the few scenes that do kind of take it up a little bit. But it is definitely stretched out way more than it needs to be. This is not an almost 110-minute film. This is like a 90-minute, maybe a solid 75-minute film. That's what I would say. This is sort of a direct-to-stream thing that I don't think deserved a lot of its attention, from my personal opinion. This should have been something that kept within the realms of how I heard of it. It should have been spoken about. It should have had some sort of cult following that let it grow, but something let it blow up to a $2 million price point. And good for the writer and director, who is the same guy who also, I think if I remember in the credits, he produced it, he edited it, he did so much with this film. Good for him for like really saying like, no one's going to do this, so I'm going to do it myself. And it's his first time doing anything as well. Kyle Edward Ball, I do hope he makes more stuff and maybe tries differently, or maybe goes a different route and maybe actually gives something that's a little bit more not as experimental. Like maybe he'll get the money and actually do something that's a little more conventional, or even not conventional, but just not take so many liberties with what he's trying to do, in my opinion.